the readiness of the military is very significant. Now, bearing this in mind, let me begin my presentation. Now, the world is currently facing a global COVID-19 pandemic, which is a major public health challenge. It is not only a public health crisis, but also has become an economic problem due to lockdowns, restricted movement orders, and other measures taken to protect the public. Okay, I'm trying to get into the second slide. Okay. The pandemic is seen as a public health crisis, is affecting the society in terms of health and the daily running of economic activities, which in turn affects the country's economy and financial markets. That would result as a national concern. As such, the government has to pool all resources to address the ongoing pandemic. If I were to pose a question, what is crisis? There would be many variations. Slides are going down very slow.
Yeah, we just see the second.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for the third slide to get in before I presume. Are you able to control from the other side?
Sorry? Sorry, sir?
No, the slides. This is being.
Like, okay, we have. Okay, we will try, sir.
Oh yeah, because it seems to be hanging from my side.
Okay, okay, we will try. Is that from you?
No, I think from your side.
From you? I don't. There's any. Okay, okay, this our side.
Okay. All right. Can you go on to the third slide?
Slide.
Yeah.
The first slide.
The next one. Okay, just hold on there. All right. If I were to pose a question, what is crisis? There could be many variations. Next slide, please. Some will refer a crisis as a disruptive period of instability, uncertainty, and danger. Some may refer it as an unexpected, unplanned situation, or rather threat that suddenly dawns upon out of nowhere and threatens the very stability of a nation or business, while others may refer it as an unstable situation or extreme danger or difficulty. Can I have the next slide, please?
Next slide.
All right, okay. Next one. In the context of coronavirus or COVID-19, it is defined as a situation that threatens significant harm to the country's population in basic values and compels a political response under time pressure and uncertainty. Now, as urgency and uncertainty defines the elements of threat, the COVID-19 falls under the domain of crisis. Now, the pandemic is also a classic example of VUCA. What is VUCA? Briefly, the notion of VUCA is one which represents a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment that was introduced by the United States Army to describe the unfavorable conditions that resulted from the end of Cold War. The VUCA model was subsequently adopted by business leaders across the globe to approach different kinds of challenging situations posed by various external factors. Given the rapid changes taking place on social, economic, political, and technological fronts in the current environment, COVID-19 pandemic has emerged as a perfect example of a VUCA landscape. Now, some of you will be asking a question, what is VUCA? V-U-C-A. Now, VUCA briefly has got 4 dimensions. V stands for volatility. Volatility may be defined as a frequent, rapid, or significant change for which the duration may be unknown. Uncertainty may be defined as a lack of predictability of the future. It is a situation where events and outcomes are unpredictable. Complexity may be defined as a phenomenon having many interconnected parts or variables resulting in an overloaded information network. Ambiguity may be defined as a lack of clarity. It is a phenomena or a situation having more than one interpretation. This VUCA actually defines very well a classic example in what is the current situation that we're going on, that the whole global is facing the pandemic COVID-19. It is very volatile, it is very uncertain, very complex, and very ambiguous, because no one knows what are the types of virus that is being mutating, and whether we are able to control it in the future. And it's very complex. Even though with the vaccine that we have received, it still does not give you what they call a guarantee that it is a cure. Can I have the next slide, please?
Next slide.
All right. Now we are aware that the pandemic outbreak began abruptly in many countries in January 2020, leading critical situations related to health, lifestyle, economy, business, and jobs. Since then, governments around the world have taken great measures to control the outbreak from becoming a major pandemic disaster. The interim measures taken by the government were not sufficient to avoid a series of waves of the pandemic and has further affected the economic, environment, and health on the global population. It is predicted that the global economy would contract by at least by 5.2% in gross domestic product, regardless of government taking proactive measures in financial policies. The economic resilience of South Asia is not spared either, as it too has been stretched due to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. The economic growth in South Asia is expected to drop by about 5% in 2021, or this year rather, and this could be the worst economic drop of Asia in the past 6 decades. The next one, please. Okay, although various vaccines were developed, but it is still uncertain whether they are able to eradicate the pandemic permanently. The effect of the pandemic is not only detrimental to the nation's economic survivability, as it also contributes to the readiness of the military towards the defense of a country's sovereignty and its interests. Information on the spread of the pandemic are provided daily through various means of social media, but does not offer any clarity on the global security implication by the pandemic. Next, please. And basically, security is an important factor to human survivability. When we think of security, this often relates to economic security, national security, energy security, nuclear security, cyber security, democratic and civil rights security, personal security, and healthcare security are some of these examples. Next, please. However, what is critical is that we should be concerned with global security. It encompasses all that was mentioned earlier. But more importantly, it depends on a common factor, which is stability. Stability of a nation or an environment to ensure mankind is free from conflicts and violence. So this is a basic thing that we need to prepare ourselves, even by every country, right? The nation's stability is important no matter what kind of threats that we receive. As mentioned yesterday, it could be traditional or non-traditional threats. So the military has got to play its role and has got to maintain itself a state of readiness to face any forms of threats. At times, there will be some unwanted elements. We may take the opportunity to strike during this period where the government is focusing on this COVID-19. So these are some of the reasons why the military readiness is expected to be at peak at all times. Next, please. The threat of nuclear war, if you see at the moment, if you were to read the papers, it is still present. It does not change. North Korea, further development of nuclear weapons or ballistic missiles testing may heighten military tensions in the Korean Peninsula. Terrorism threat is also going on. The killing of several policemen and civilians in Spore, a town in the district of Jammu and Kashmir, and an attack on Pakistani military posts recently, killing several paramilitary soldiers in the province of Balochistan are some of the examples. Next, please. Here are some of the examples that we've seen that has happened in the year of 2021 until now, until June. There were at least 12 terrorist incidents reported since January 2021, which is as shown on the slide. Next one, please. This is the first slide. The second slide. Okay. Scarce resources are still being an issue for conflict. Mass migration due to poverty has not been ceased. So even the whole world is going through this pandemic, these forms of threat are still going on. They have not declined in any way. We know that wars and conflicts contribute vastly to societal instability and environmental degradation. And given that millions of people are residing in states that currently cannot provide the basic necessities of life, disputes in those areas may escalate. Again, there could be conflicts, there could be war. Next, please. Now, although there are a range of views one could examine on the current COVID pandemic, I like to look at it from two perspectives. First, the effect of pandemic on global security. Ever since the pandemic has got into its rise globally in the past year or so, have we ever sat down and looked at the global security perspective? Has conflicts around the world declined? Has all parties, warring parties, have sat down to look and to see how they can address the pandemic outbreak? Whether the warring parties are keen on the people or the population of the country or the area where conflicts is going on. These are some of the questions that we should ask ourselves. Okay, so I'd like to look at first on the pandemics, the effect of the pandemic on the global security, so that we can have a closer view of how global security in terms of disputes, conflicts, and terrorism is influenced by this pandemic. Again, are the warring parties taking a serious concern on the intensity of the spread of the pandemic? Is the eradicating of the new global enemy, COVID-19, has become a common concern by all parties? Or the justification for war or conflict plays a higher role? Which is more important? Is it the well-being of the people around the country due to the pandemic, or the cause for what they are fighting for that is more important to them? Secondly, the primary purpose of the armed forces is national defense and to ensure its interests, strategic interests. Yeah, with the current pandemic circumstances, has the situation changed or provided additional roles to fight against, or provided additional roles for the military to fight against COVID-19? What is the primary focus of the armed forces now? More importantly, is the military readiness of the armed forces affected by the pandemic? What training measures can be taken to sustain the military readiness in the new normal environment? There are a lot of SOPs and compliance that we need to ensure in order to reduce or to address the current ongoing pandemic COVID-19. In such circumstances, how can training be conducted? If you need to have social distancing, if you need to wear a mask, can we continue sustaining the military professionalism to ensure the military readiness of a particular or any country? These are some of the areas that need to be studied to establish the state of global security and the challenges to sustain military readiness. Next, please. The next question one should have in his mind is, why are these important? Why is it important for us to know what's happening around the world in terms of conflicts and war? Why is it important to ensure that the military readiness is at its peak at all times? This is something that we can discuss at the end of my session. I would like to have some point of view from your side as well. All right. Now, let us first view the effects of the pandemic on global security. Next, please. All right. Some of the literature that I went through argues that the impact of COVID-19 has not deterred or scaled down in conflicts in any way. Next one, please. Even the United Nations call for global ceasefire to focus on a global virus did not foster any pause in conflicts. Although some warring parties have responded to the call to lay down their arms, others are viewing it as a window of opportunity to strike. The opportunity by this pandemic and the lack of military readiness could provide a window for terrorist attacks while providing non-state actors to gain access to cause destruction around the globe. And the government is now concentrating more on the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. Furthermore, lapse in security control may also escalate political violence as non-state actors craving for greater legitimacy and using the health crisis to obtain support from local populations for a better governance of the pandemic than their state adversaries. In some countries, the effects of the pandemic indirectly resulted in increasing competition among the armed groups. Next, please. Even in the midst of the pandemic crisis, terrorist attacks have been on the rise in Syria and Iraq. Civil wars in the Middle East have not declined either, as more people are being killed as compared to hundreds of thousands in previous years. Significant international security and humanitarian support are in dire need to improve conditions in these conflict areas. In fact, the pandemic COVID-19 has become an additional factor to the ongoing violence faced by the local populace and a hindrance to international support to these people. In addition, studies also illustrate that the reliance on technologies by non-state actors are likely to continue, especially in the use of unmanned aerial systems. The successful deployment of drones in conflict in Libya and Nagorno-Karabakh indicates and encourages the terrorist groups to acquire such capabilities as a force multiplier in their asymmetric conflict. This indicates that the pandemic crisis is no obstacle to increasing conflicts at all. In fact, violence has remained unabated or even has escalated, comparing the patterns in armed conflict before and after the outbreak of the pandemic as illustrated in this slide. Next slide, please. In this slide, you can see how the COVID-19 has an impact on the conflicts. On the left side of your slide, you can see what it was before the COVID-19, and on the right side, you can see how bad or how much the conflict has escalated as part of the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. Next, please. The reason Israel-Palestine conflict in May 2021 recently is another factor which denotes that conflicts do not take into consideration the effects of the pandemic either. Now, one must understand that the pandemic does not view whether you are a foe or a friend, whether the situation is in conflict or in peace, whether the person is dying or going to die. The pandemic does not take all these into considerations. It just comes in. So there is a need. There is extreme significant need for us to ensure the steps that we need to take to address the COVID-19 pandemic. And at the same time, the military readiness also must be ensured so that these conflicts or any kind of forms of threats or non-state actors will take any form of advantage, taking the advantage of the pandemic situation to strike. Now, next one, please. Now, taking a glimpse at the Asian region, I believe all of us are aware the constant flying of the China's People Liberation Air Force within the Taiwanese Air Defense Identification Zone. All right, next. And the recent intrusion, next please. All right, and the recent intrusion of the 16 Chinese aircrafts over the Malaysian Maritime Zone airspace evokes a security concern. Next, please. Further encroachment into the Malaysian waters near Luconia shoals on the 4th of June lately, which is this month, earlier this month, 2021, by the Chinese Coast Guard vessels also warrants the reason for the military to be ready for any eventualities. If security, which reflects a state that enables people to perform their businesses as usual without fear, continues to be breached in the pandemic era, the military has to sustain its combat readiness at all times. Next. Next, we shall discuss on the effect of the pandemic on the military. In most countries, the military were the first to be deployed in response to contain and stop the spread of the pandemic. The reason being obvious that the organization has the resources to be deployed rapidly in a crisis situation. From being a logistic support provider, the military has moved to a more serious role in engaging the pandemic threat. Next, please. All right, what is the effect of the pandemic on the military? As I said earlier on, even though the situation is going on bad, it does not mean that the military's role, with the additional role given to them to be engaged to assist the civil authorities in the pandemic outbreak, should not let their guard down. Their readiness must be at peak at all times. The common role of the military in most countries begins with a priority to defend the nation and its strategic interests, and subsequently assisting the civil authorities to preserve public order and providing assistance in the natural disaster and emergencies. The pandemic, seen as a public health crisis, is affecting the society in terms of health and the daily running of economic activities, which in turn affects the country's economic and financial markets that will result as a national concern. As such, the government has to pool all resources to address the ongoing pandemic. Now, although the pandemic has allocated additional non-fighting roles to the military, urgency for solidarity among government bodies and non-government organizations to containing and eventually eradicating the pandemic becomes the ultimate mission. In addition, the military forces are trained to mobilize rapidly in crisis situations. The military, with limited resources and in short notice, has the ability to respond swiftly to situations. In the pandemic situation, the military is not only seen as a supporting role to complement the civil service and the non-government organizations' effort, but also in social welfare and the humanitarian assistance. Now, in most countries, the military has been utilized as frontliners, are seen as a key fighting force against the spread of the pandemic. In Europe, soldiers are deployed to enforce lockdowns, monitoring the restricted movement orders, and in transporting medical supplies. Next, please. All right, in Italy, we see military are used to enforce lockdowns, assigning military medical personnel to assist hospitals and distribution of masks, gloves, and sanitizing gels, including disinfection of public spaces. In Germany, about 15,000 soldiers were deployed to support civilian facilities in testing and processing of patients. In France, the military built field hospitals and participated in healthcare support in the French overseas territories. Likewise, in Spain, 57,000 troops were deployed to assist in disinfecting transport infrastructure, hospital and nursing homes, and installing shelters for the homeless people. In Belgium, military staffs were deployed to assist caregivers in homes for the elderly and for evacuation missions, such as flying Europeans from Niger back to their member states. Finland had to make use of its military staffs to reinforce public order and enforcing lockdown measures. Similar reinforcement and military cooperation activities were also conducted in other European states such as Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Iceland. Now, in Southeast Asia, the military role is seen more prominently involved in countries such as in Myanmar, Thailand, while in Singapore, the military has not taken any frontline roles. However, the national servicemen are deployed to support in packing pandemic essentials for the crisis. Next, please. Okay, these are the utilization of forces, as I mentioned earlier on, between Germany, France, Belgium, and Finland. Next. All right. Similarly, the Malaysian armed forces are also utilized to support government bodies and NGOs against the pandemic. The Malaysian armed forces personnel are seen in collaboration with the Malaysian police in mending roadblocks and enforcing lockdowns, in addition to providing medical staff assistance. Even though the situation has allocated additional non-fighting roles, the urgency for solidarity among governments, agencies, and NGOs to containing this pandemic has become the ultimate mission for all parties. Military forces are trained to mobilize rapidly in crisis, and because they have the ability, they play a bigger role in assisting the civil bodies or agencies. Now, it is very possible that the COVID-19 pandemic is may cause stress on the military routine operational tasks on both ends, if viewed from the holistic manner. Now, what I mean here is that how is it causing stress from the both sides of the end? Is if you're looking from one side where the recruitment are being taken, where civilians or people are taken or recruited into the armed forces on one side, okay, may have this decelerated because the number of training that be conducted may have reduced due to the pandemic outbreak. Okay, and rigorous measures are taken to ensure recruitment are safe. So there are a lot of measures that have been taken in this training perspective. So in this perspective, we'll find that the number of recruits are taken in could be reduced so that we're able to address or comply to the COVID-19 requirement. Okay, the Chief of Army, General Tan Sri Zamrus, has recently stated the recruiting of young soldiers have been reduced from 4 intakes to 2 intakes a year. This is to accommodate training compliance to standard operating procedures. Now, it may include having less recruits in the dormitory to ensure space and hygiene measures. Right? This clearly indicates one assumption that we can derive from here is that reducing from 4 to 2 intakes in a year is logically tells you there could be a 50% decrease in the recruitment training, which may have an effect on the balance of force between those leaving the force due to compulsory retirement. So here we can see, right, if you were to compare between the number of forces getting in, number of people getting into the forces, and the people who are getting out of the forces due to compulsory retirement could have an effect. There could be a high attrition rate during this time, could contribute to that. The Belgium Armed Forces faced a similar setback where they lost about 35% of their young recruits per year. This contributed to approximately about 3% of its force strength per month. If the pandemic persists and the shutdown of the basic training facilities continue, or a reduction in recruiting continues, it would eventually halt the flow of people or personnel into the military, which could erode the military's preparedness for combat. We need to take a serious view on this. The sooner that we're able to overcome or address this pandemic, the outbreak, when it comes to training, the better, because we don't want to lose the force level that the country has already set in ensuring for its readiness. Next, please. Okay, on the other hand, okay, large scale international and domestic military exercises, right? Some of which are Soman Warrior. We have got exercises, the Malaysian Army or the Armed Forces got exercises with the Philippines, with Indonesia, and also with the Australia, New Zealand, and so forth. All these exercises, field exercises has got to be scaled down or reduced during this ongoing pandemic period. Now, this may contribute to complacency in combat readiness and deterioration in individual military professionalism. If much focus is given to the COVID and less on the training, these are some of the effects that can occur. All right. Okay, if alternative measures for training are not seen, then there could be a rise in complacency. Now, without having a clear idea or prediction of when the pandemic will be under control or eradicated, it does put pressure on military combat readiness. The continuing use of military personnel in routine operations to safeguard the land, sea, and air sovereignty of the nation have to consider the possibility of the outbreak of the pandemic among the deployed personnel. They may have an effect on their moral and combat readiness as well. This pandemic is not only affecting the civilians, but they also can affect the soldiers itself. Since the nature of military or in the armed forces personnel are frequently operating in close quarters and shared living spaces, the risk in contracting COVID-19 is very high. Next, please. Some of the effect on the military are as seen around the world. Okay, first one, in the case of a U.S. aircraft carrier, USS Theodore Roosevelt, where a number of crew members were affected with COVID-19. That resulted the aircraft carrier to halt in Guam for a period before continuing its scheduled deployment. Other examples include reported outbreaks of the pandemic on French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle and the UK aircraft. Next, please. Okay, it also happened in the UK aircraft carrier HMS Queen Elizabeth, the UK nuclear submarine HMS Vigilant, the Belgian frigate Leopard, and the Dutch submarine HLNMS Dolphin are some of the examples how the COVID-19 has also affected the military personnel in their tour of duty. Next, please. In our own backyard, we too have faced a similar situation, where 98 crew members of the Royal Malaysian Navy ship KD Mahavangsa were confirmed positive for COVID-19 after a few days of sailing. As such, the possibility that the pandemic have also affected the military force in many countries is high, but the impact is less public, right? We all know that the soldiers or the military personnel are also being infected by COVID-19, but most of it are not made public, so that we should be able to be assured as a public that we are under control. Now, most militaries have taken measures to contain the spread of the pandemic by imposing quarantines of personnel before and after operation deployment, enhance hygiene routines, and decrease non-essential training. But exposing them in the additional supporting roles may also increase the risk of being infected by the pandemic as well. Therefore, the growing intensity of the pandemic may also leave the military with no choice but to accept the reality of a lower level of combat readiness in its primary role of defending the nation's sovereignty. This is something that the military has got to take, has got to view it very seriously. It not only has got to view in their supporting role how to help the government or the other government bodies in addressing this issue, but it also has got to take a bigger role in ensuring that their personnel are not affected. And what are the preventive measures that can be taken for their soldiers in deploying them for such supporting role? Next, please. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to look into the military training. Although that we are now facing in a pandemic outbreak situation, military training cannot cease. It has to carry on. We have got to view the new military training, the new normal environment from a different lens. Training, if you all know, is a core business for the military in peacetime. Soldiers are required to sustain their professional skills at all times. In the midst of the additional roles for the pandemic, troops can be distracted or diverted. But war does not pause for any pandemic. The national and domestic military exercises are conducted to keep abreast with interoperability procedures, effective communications, and logistic planning. These exercises are venues for hands-on training and fine-tuning to sustain professionalism. Disruption of regular training could have an impact, especially on the highly specialized units such as special forces or fighter pilots. These special forces or fighter pilots or similar organizations in any countries requires constant training. You cannot be complacent or take for granted that not training for a couple of weeks means that you are still able to sustain at that particular peak of readiness. Right. So these are some of the important criteria that the military has got to take into consideration in ensuring that military training has got to continue. Now, furthermore, the supporting role to civilian authorities may implicate a setback in terms of military readiness as well, and maintaining skills for combat missions if the demand for the domestic task prolongs. The more or the higher the supporting role the military has got to play, especially during this pandemic, what is going to happen to his primary role, right? It has got to maintain its skills for military missions. The scaling down of military exercises and reduction in basic training program due to the unpredicted pandemic duration may also lead to view its implications on the future military readiness. Therefore, the military has to view alternative means of training to continue sustaining soldiers' professionalism. Next, please. Right. Since video gaming is a common activity among people, especially with the younger generation, virtual training could be utilized among officers and men as a measure to maintain readiness. Right? We may not be able to do in the field, but we are able to do it virtually. Because I always believe that knowledge builds confidence. If you are able to maintain your knowledge in every perspective, then you are able to do it practically even more easier. All right. Okay, military simulations such as war games can be used to maintain understanding of theories in warfare and refine skills in tactical, operational, and strategic levels of training. Models in military simulations range from computer simulations, field exercises, to analytical models. Next, please. The simulation spectrum on this slide, shown on the slide, illustrates a wide range of activities in a computerized models that can be utilized for military training among personnel in compliance with the hygienic procedures of the pandemic. Using virtual reality training, military personnel can experience handling complex situations and enhance in their skills from effective communication to critical combat techniques. These are some of the simulation spectrum that are available. That it's not something new. It's something that is existing, where the military can utilize such spectrum in their training. Right? We may not be able to conduct major field exercises on one end, but we are able to do tabletop exercises, computerized exercises, map exercises, war games, and such as these activities, so that we're able to maintain the understanding and the knowledge perspective, the cognitive perspective of soldiering. Next, please. Okay, I will slowly touch on the individual training. Now, individual training could be conducted in a classroom, as how we are all going through, studying online using desktops or laptops, right, as a mean or a method of instruction. Depending on the level of education to be provided, instructors can perform online classes using video demonstrations, discussions, and simple quizzes to evaluate the understanding. Short assignments or Group discussions can also be held to facilitate exchange of views and experience. In addition, simulation programs can also be inserted to practice the subject taught. Computer-based training games that allow combinations of virtual reality and technology can be used for training from any convenient places. Nowadays, even you can see the students in our university are not only studying from the dormitory or in the university itself or the complex itself, they're also studying from home. So if we can work from home, definitely we can also study from home. So likewise in the military, if you're taking subjects which are not a classified matter, there are many there are many apps that are available, such as Google what they call Teams and Zoom. That what you're using are some of the training apps that we have that can be used as long as it does not involve any classified matters. So you can learn from the place that you're convenient, having a cup of coffee and still discussing about military factors. Next, please. Likewise, for collective training, the spectrum of simulations shown, okay, as you can, earlier, what they call could be helpful, especially for small group training. We have programs such as Virtual Battle Space 3, Virtual Battle Space 4 are some of the common multiplayer battlefield virtual simulation systems that enables users to train for individual, crew, team, platoon, and company collective war fighting tasks. So we can use this form of methods for collective training. We can comply to the SOPs that social distancing is possible as long as you're wearing a mask. You have a screen in front of you and the system for you to train on. All right. Now, very briefly, what is Virtual Battle Space 3 and 4? Okay, briefly, VBS3, okay, in short form, provides a comprehensive virtual training environment for tactical training, experimentation, and mission rehearsal for land, sea, and air. While VBS4, the better version of it, is a whole Earth virtual desktop trainer and simulation host that allows you to create and run any imaginable military training scenario. See the next slide, please, whether I have the VBS4. Right, okay, good. Now, VBS4 are used in over 50 militaries around the world. It offers realistic scenarios, vehicle mobility, and weapon firing, coupled with interoperability with other virtualization solutions. VBS4 encompasses collective training in battle simulation centers up to 100 or 200 computers connected together. So you can see how large a system will enable you to conduct training. Each soldier operates a computer and plays through a scenario from the first-person perspective, which can range from clearing in building to securing a convoy. The end goal is to enhance communication, decision-making, and strategic thinking. Now, since I've already upgraded the slides, but you don't have this in the next slides, but basically you can see that the VBS4 can create many things in a short perspective. Okay, you'll find in 10 seconds, you are able to be anywhere, okay, in the planet with procedural roads and buildings and create battle space only in 10 seconds using VBS4. In 10 minutes, allows you to use geographical perspective to modify the procedural terrain to create a highly detailed environment using the typical models available in the bill. That means you can move from one area in 10 seconds to a global area in 10 minutes. And in 10 hours, the VBS4 allows you to create a complex geospecific building using off-the-shelf modeling tools, okay, in anywhere around the world. So this is what a VBS is able to provide you, from 10 seconds to 10 hours. If we have such virtual training programs in our country, it will enable us to conduct a quality training among the soldiers itself. Okay, basically we find that virtual reality is fully digital, computer generated, three-dimensional experiential environment in contrast to the traditional forms that only allow us to view the screen. Right? Virtual reality enables the user to be immersed and interact with the 3D vision. They can either simulate, or differ from the real world. All right, there are, can I see the next slide, please? Okay, good. Okay, sorry, I think I have that all here. All right, so this is what a VBS4 is able to provide, from 10 seconds to 10 hours. It's a very comprehensive program that can be utilized in terms of trading, especially when you are in this pandemic environment where major field exercises has got to be reduced. Next. All right, okay. There are three types of virtual reality simulation primarily. Yeah? Okay, they are fully immersive, semi-immersive, and non-immersive. Next, please. All right, okay. I'll go into the non-immersive virtual first. Now, this form of simulation provides a computer-generated environment, but allows the user to stay aware of and keep control of the physical environment. Its virtual reality systems rely on a computer or a video game console, display, or input devices like the keyboard and controller. Right? Next, please. Secondly, is the semi-immersive virtual category, which allow you to experience that provides users with a partially virtual environment while giving users the perception of being in a different reality when they focus on the digital image. It also allows the users to remain connected to their physical surroundings. Semi-immersive technology provides realism through 3D graphics, a term known as vertical reality depth. Next, please. Finally, we have the fully immersive simulations that provide users the most realistic simulation experience, complete with sight and sound. The user needs a proper virtual reality glasses or a head-mounted display to experience and interact with fully immersed virtual reality. Next, please. Now, these forms of simulation that are available in the market for training. Now, in reality, it may not be possible to conduct simulation or virtual training on a large scale for every unit on the ground. However, these short-term training measures would enable simulations of combat engagements to sustain competence among military personnel in their respective role of duty. Now, some of us will be asking ourselves, these programs, of course, it is available in the market, but they do not come cheap either. They are very pricey. Can our government or the military forces able to buy such an expensive program for the training? On one hand, this is what we need to do in order for us to ensure the military readiness. How else can we ensure the professionalism of the soldiers are maintained, especially in this pandemic environment? We need to have training. So simulations are one perspective. Now, it is not necessarily so. We can have, you can take initiatives how we can also conduct military training. As I said early on, we can use tabletop exercises as long as we ensure the social distancing and whatnot. We can use the computer that you already have in hand, all right, like doing online kind of classes or doing online engagement, okay, over a simulation scenario, which can be done based on our own initiatives. Next, please. Okay, now, some of the one of the article written by Sarah in 2020 described that the armed conflicts has not decreased or after the emergence of the pandemic, as I shown you on the graph on the slide early on. Other researchers has also established that armed conflicts have increased in some countries, exploiting either the state of weakness or the lack of international support on COVID-19 pandemic. On one hand, circumstances associated with armed conflicts may give rise to greater spread of the virus, while on the other hand, the pandemic may create conditions for violence due to anti-government protests and communal violence among the warring parties, if security monitoring and control are not managed adequately. Coupled with territorial intrusion right, it becomes a serious concern to envision the impacts of armed conflict on human security and on the capabilities of nations to handle the pandemic. In such circumstances, maintaining military readiness becomes pertinent, and virtual training in individual and collective training are the best options as interim measures to sustain competence and capability. Now, having said much, I would like to show a short video clip on how training is conducted, especially in this environment in the US force, right? Before, okay, Captain Dr. Christine, is it able for me to share my screen and try to show the video?
So how long?
It's
But
about a
actually,
minute.
we still have 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's no problem. 10 minutes is more than enough for 3 videos.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. Are you able to see the screen?
Not yet.
You can see my screen, right?
Is it about the mask? The mask?
Rather mask. I'm trying to. I'll try to have a new share.
I can see the mask.
Hold on. I'll try to have a new share.
Not yet.
Stop sharing. I'm going to open up a new one.
Kita sudah stop sharing.
Can you stop?
Yeah, we done. We already stopped sharing.
Okay, all right. You stop sharing, then I'll try to share my screen and go into. Looks like I can't get into the. Okay, stop sharing. Looks like I'm coming back to this all the time. Is it?
Yeah.
Can't do this. Okay. Okay, good. Hold on. Okay. Let me know whether you can see this here. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear
Yes,
as well? Can you? Okay, I'm going to proceed on.
Okay, yes.
Military role as a TPU, I'm a 74 Delta Seaborne Specialist. I recently assigned to the Force Protection Cell. Years ago as a medic, I'm used to dealing with staying away from infectious substances, so that transfers over into 74 Delta world pretty easily. My civilian role with the 377th, I work in G7 training as a staff operations and training specialist. I specialize in individual training such as schools, weapons qualification, and individual training statistics.
But we are the first point of contact between the ESC, the school, and the actual soldier. So we get contacted first. So what COVID has done is classes were either rescheduled, non-conducted, or transferred to virtual.
Around the April-May timeframe, you started seeing when training events were questionable, whether they're going to take place or they're going to be postponed or even canceled.
From the school's perspective, we have noticed a lot of schools have transitioned to become virtual schools on Teams, and a lot of other schools have cut their capacity by 50% or more.
As far as the course material, the requirements are going to be the same. They're not going to get easier. So in addition to the PPE and the quarantine period or the isolation period, it's just going to be more challenging.
It makes you more aware of your surroundings, and obviously you want to make sure everyone's safe, you know, especially from the pandemic exposure and such. So it makes you more aware of what extra measures you need to do for your soldiers and for yourself in order to keep everyone safe.
If we stress along to soldiers, to everybody along the way, just exercise personal hygiene, you know, keep your distance, wash your hands, more important than anything else. 20 years as a medic, I can say that. So I think if anything, soldiers should remember life is going to continue. We can't stop everything we're doing just because we're scared of what may or may not be happening. Take care of yourself, take care of your soldiers, and life will continue as it should be. Just do what you're supposed to do and be smart.
All right. Okay, that's good. All right. What I'm going to show now is the next two more videos on. It's only about 3 to 4 minutes, 3 minutes only, to indicate, just to show you how the Malaysian Armed Forces are addressing this COVID-19, how the Malaysian Armed Forces are playing a supporting role in supporting the police, the Malaysian police, and also the other agencies in addressing the pandemic. So I'll view the next two video clips.
Okay.
All right. All right. The final video will tell you on how the Malaysian Armed Forces are supporting from the medical perspective.
Any possibility of a full-blown movement control order will only be decided after a discussion with the relevant authorities. Senior Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said each decision to implement an MCO would be based on advice from the Health Ministry. He said this in a press conference after visiting the Tuanku Mizan Armed Forces Hospital today.
Kita akan bincanglah dalam sidang khas MKN yang mana setiap keputusan yang dibuat adalah berdasarkan kepada nasihat daripada Kementerian Kesihatan. Ya, kalau Kementerian Kesihatan kata ada keperluan, kalau itu akan dibentangkan di dalam sidang khas MKN.
All right. Now, let's go to the next. Just another few more minutes, Dr. Christine, before we get into the question answer session. Remembering that what I asked you in the earlier part of my presentation, the question was, why are these important for us? I would like to have some form of interaction with the participants of this audience of this session. Maybe we can like to share some of your thoughts. Why is it important for us to know about the global security, and why is it important for us to ensure the military readiness from your point of view? Can I have some pointers from the students, Dr. Christine?
Okay, yes, sir. Actually, a student has already ready with the question, but
Yeah,
since
just
you asked,
5 minutes. 5 minutes will do, just to have interaction with them, so that we can
I
give
have
them
some
an idea.
student here.
Yep,
I
sure,
have some
please.
student here. Maybe student, do you know that you have to, maybe from your perspectives, why this important to know about global security, especially because this is because of the COVID-19. So what is your perspective?
Livet er ikke en lige linje.
If some of you know about that and wanna talk, please just raise your hand, maybe.
Yeah, this is
Can
not.
we close the screen? I mean, from your video.
Yeah, sure. Okay, is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Actually, here we have some student here, but I don't know which. Anyone has a?
It's not a. There's no right or wrong right or wrong answer in this perspective. It's just a matter of us thinking out aloud on what is your perception on this.
Okay.
Anybody like to contribute your views?
Okay, let me ask them. Anyone? Maybe you want your own perspective about the global security related to the COVID-19 and military as well. Your own perspective.
Well, students are.
Hello, anyone?
Okay.
Okay.
Pardon me. My name is
Yes.
Nobati. I am the student of energy security. From my perspective, sir, about COVID-19, it is an interesting issue. Actually, in Indonesian Defense University, we study about CBRN, which is related to biological warfare. And from my perspective, COVID-19, it is like biological warfare, sir. Because like you said and you explained to us, it is affect our economy and it break down, and then you can see that lockdown is everywhere, and it causes it gives bad effects for many developed countries like Indonesia and Malaysia. And then better country like US and UK, they use like MMT to protect their country and to make their economy to become better. So I think biological warfare, we as a developed country like Indonesia and Malaysia, we have like bio defense and biosecurity like US do. So I think in military, we must have different perspective to protect our country from the other perspective, especially in biological. So sometimes, WHO still investigate about COVID-19. So we will see about the result, but we have perspective. It is like biological warfare. So if we know about COVID-19 and about bio defense, we must prepare for the next step to protect our country, especially for our economy. It is for my perspective, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your highlighting your perspective. It is very well said. Thank you so much, Nobati. Anyone else? One more before we go into the Q&A session.
Ada lagi yang mau bertanya? Anyone? Maybe not bertanya. I just your perspective.
Your own perspective here.
Yes.
Excuse me, Madam Moderator.
Okay. So, okay. Mention your name, please.
Thank you so much for the chance. My name is Muhammad Aris, student of Defense Management Study Program. I would like to deliver a question regarding this topic. COVID-19 encourages every country.
Sorry. Before you ask, you have your own perspective about this topic. Before asking.
It's not question time yet. If you have your own perspective.
Not yet. Just pendapat Anda tentang permasalahan yang dijelaskan. Apa aja?
Why do you think the question is why do you think we must also be aware of the global security, and also we must ensure military readiness from your own perspective? Why are these important factors?
Yes, sir. On my point of view, I think in this pandemic of COVID-19, every country have the need to have a joint militaries in such a framework of joint training. So especially during the pandemic, I think it's important to regional countries like Indonesia and Malaysia to have joint military operation, so to cooperate with each other in the manner to break the chain of virus spread.
Yeah, thank you so
That
much
is
for
my
your
point of view,
perspective.
sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Christina, I hand it over to you for the question answer session.
Okay, let me ask first. Maybe anyone still has question.
Perspective.
Opinion, perspective. Okay, we still have from Tia Norma. Okay,
Wait a minute.
please.
I want to turn off my background first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good.
Thank you, sir. I think, in my opinion, actually, I'm Tin. I'm from economic department. In my opinion, why we have to know the impact of COVID-19, because one of the effect of COVID-19 is decline of GDP, gross domestic product. So when the country, I mean the government, can solve the problem as soon as possible, I think it will give the biggest impact to our national income. Even many vaccines have been discovered, such as Oxford, AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, Moderna, etc. But in fact, the total of COVID-19 victim is still high. So I think for the country have to think, for the government have to think how the country can solve the problem. Decreasing the COVID-19 victim as soon as possible. I think that's
Okay.
all, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have made also a very important factor that is important for the country or the nation to ensure how fast can we eradicate this COVID-19, because it is affecting the country's economy. And we hope that it will not affect the stability of the country in the near future. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I think I do believe that COVID-19 is changed most aspect of people's life, especially, and also changed the behavior of life of the people, and not only civilian but also for the military. But from your video, from your slides, I can see that we have more technology to face this situation. So besides that, we always talking about the COVID-19 is a big hazard for us, but we also have something that we can create. The people have to create, maybe because they don't have some money, so they try to make their own money by something they have. And also the military, they create the technology. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nixon. Could you please, all of you, big applause for Dr. Nixon.
Thank you so much.
It was an outstanding presentation. Terima kasih. Now we are heading to the question and answer. So let's see the chat box.
Okay, when I look at the chat box, I see, let me go ahead. Okay, the first question is from Yulfia Nur Hasana from Defense Management. The question is, COVID-19 encourages every country to cooperate with each other.
Me, sir? Yep. Hello, sir. Excuse me, maybe I would like to ask Ulfia by herself to talk about it, because it is like just interactive. Okay, thank you. Ulfia from Manajemen, ya. Time is yours. Silakan pertanyaannya.
Excuse moderator. Okay, my name is Nur Hasana from Defense Management. As we know, COVID-19 encouraged every country to cooperate with each other in a compact manner to break the chains of virus spread. The handling can enter military operation other than war. If there is foreign aid in the term international cooperation, for example, join with other as in the framework of joint training. So my question is, what is the main political diplomacy impact for Malaysia especially during the pandemic. If the joint training implied power relation of each other country, will it give more advantages to Malaysia?
All right, thank you for the question. I think that's a very relevant question that you asked during the COVID-19, what we're going through. Yes, it is true in the sense that in Malaysia, most of the bilateral and multilateral exercises that we normally conduct has been reduced or has been cancelled due to this pandemic situation. However, if you want to look from the health perspective, or if you look at it from the health crisis perspective, I believe that the joint or cooperation with the other nations can help on both parties, both countries in a way how we can able to assist them. For example, we have what they call our medical team in Bangladesh in assisting them in various ways. So similarly, in this particular pandemic period of time, we can also conduct such exercises that it will enable both parties to learn from one another. How are they able to address this pandemic from the military perspective? Right? How are we able to be a more prominent supporting role and able to assist the civil agencies or have a better civil military cooperation, all right, in addressing these issues. So there is a possibility, a good possibility in the sense that we can convert some of these trainings, especially for the medical corps, to work with other countries as well. Okay, to work together to exchange knowledge and experience in handling such a situation. I think that that will enable to have a better sort of a defense diplomacy kind of working together. That will enhance the expertise or the cooperation.
Okay, Ulfia, you got it?
Yes, it's clear enough. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Okay, thank you. And then now let's go to the energy security student from Irza. Irza, your turn, please.
Thanks to moderator. Good morning, sir. My name is Irza Utami. I'm from Energy Security Programming. In this occasion, I have some question. Sir, if we talk about global security and military readiness, I think we must talk about human resources to support all of that. So in this situation, especially during COVID-19 pandemic, how does Malaysia manage human resources in the national defense system exclusively to support national security and military readiness in Malaysia? And my second question is, what is your opinion about COVID-19? Is it biological warfare? I ask this question because I see now on US and Europe, the people can open their masks, but in our country like Indonesia, Malaysia, mainly India, we are often overwhelmed by the virus. Thanks. That's all. Thank you, sir.
All right, let me answer your first question. The question is, how does Malaysia manage human resource in the national defense system and in support of the national security and readiness? All right, okay, in Malaysia, as what has been said by Prof. Rohanas yesterday, we have got the National Security Council where different agencies work together. We have agencies work together in the sense of how do you want to address the pandemic. All right, in terms of security, the agency that includes working in this group involves the Royal Malaysian Police, the Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, the Ministry of Health, Civil Defence Service, Immigration Department, Volunteer Corps Department. Okay, these are some of the agencies that work together in collaboration, all right, in addressing this COVID-19. There are many what they call areas where how we ensure national security. One is we want to ensure that the illegal immigrants do not get into our country and with that COVID-19 disease and further spread it in our country, so that we don't want to have different or more clusters coming in from these illegal immigrants. So the sea patrol, the border managements, all are conducted in collaboration with other agencies such as the Malaysian Navy, the Malaysian Marine, Police Marine, and the Maritime Enforcement Agency as well, in the sea perspective, from the sea, and also in the border management perspective. The military also collaborates with other agencies such as the Immigration Department or the Volunteer Corps, all right, along the land border to ensure the smuggling and illegal immigrants do not get into the country, to increase the spread of the COVID-19. Now, the question on how do we manage human resource, right? This is how we manage. Soldiers are also being frontliners in this pandemic area. They are the frontliners as some of the medical staffs are. So it is very important that the unit or the command, all right, are able to rotate the usage of the force deployment in various perspectives. Right, they can sort of rotate it in 4 functions. One is how rotate between operational duties, supporting role, okay, training, and also admin and rest. So how if they're able to circulate between these 4 main functions, all right, I believe the human resource will be able to manage well, all right, and able to be in their peak performance at all times. Okay, now going to a second question. Are you okay with the first question?
The first question is okay.
All right. The second question you're asking about.
The first question is okay for you?
It's enough.
Okay. And then the second question.
Okay. Second question, asking whether my opinion whether COVID-19 is a biological warfare or not. It depends on how do you want to see it. All right. Now, COVID-19 is seen as more of a public health crisis, whether it's globally. All right. Where you find that the people are fighting against the COVID-19, all right, against COVID-19 to assist or to prevent the population getting even further deteriorating in their health, right? So at the moment, COVID-19 is happening in most of the countries in a peaceful environment. Like in Malaysia or in Indonesia, you'll find that the supporting role by the military is given in a peaceful environment. So in such circumstances, COVID-19, in my opinion, is only a public health crisis at the moment. All right. But if there are warring parties, if they take the opportunity of this virus, if they develop the virus even further, all right, and use it in war or in conflicts, then the COVID-19 or its mutated COVID-19 could be considered as a biological warfare. At the moment, the effect of the COVID-19 is not immediate death. It goes into the people slowly, all right? And there are vaccines available to sort of reduce that effect, or it has not come to a state where it can guarantee what they call a guarantee that you can be cut from this, but it can reduce the effect. So if the effect of the COVID-19 is not detrimental or it can cause immediate death, then in my opinion, I will not consider it as a biological warfare at the moment. Now that's my point of view. Because it still remains as a public health crisis. Is that okay, Isa?
Yes, thank you, sir.
I'm going to give some time for students. But before we go in that, so let's give opportunity for Vice Dean of Defense Management for maybe have question or something. Thank you. Time is yours. First, Pak Anton, silakan. Vice Dean of Defense Management. Okay, time is yours.
Thank you, General, for your presentations. Before I raise my questions, I want to say my perspective about that the global security is important regarding our pandemic now. So in our regulation that we have 2 types of threats. For some military threats and non-military threats. Now its pandemic is non-military threats. But our military is involved to handle with this threat. But the other institution is as a leading sector to handle the pandemic, such as health ministry. So, such as Malaysia, our armed forces also support that the other institutions to handle this pandemic. But I just worry about that pandemics. There is no evidence until now. This is the pandemic is a natural pandemic, or is by design by individual or organizational. So I think maybe this virus can be used by the terrorism to spread the virus to attack our communities by the terrorists. Is my perspective. So we we have worked together, all the components in the world, to handle this pandemic, this threat. This is our perspective. So proceed to the my questions. I just want to know about your regulations, the specific regulation that your armed forces support your police and also other institutions to handle the pandemics. Is there any regulation or act, maybe from your undang-undang or defense policy from your country? This is my questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Air Force Marshal Anton Santosa, sir. In fact, if I'm still in the military forces, I'll be able to give you the specific regulations which they've been utilized. Being retired for almost a year, it is only based on what I understand or what I gather from the forces. Right. In reference to the COVID-19 pandemic, the armed forces has been playing more of a supporting role, right, in assisting the Malaysian police, right, and other agencies in addressing this issue as well. Now, the armed forces do not have authority to arrest citizens at one point of time. We were very limited to do so. However, with the declaration of the emergency by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, which is supposed to last until in the month of August, that regulations has provided some form of authority for the Malaysian Armed Forces personnel to arrest or to detain any public citizens violating, violating the rules or regulations or the enforcement of the obstruct the enforcement of the COVID-19 procedures. So, however, although we have this what they call a limited authority to do so, we work closely together with the police force. That is why you see that the military does not operate alone, what they call in such circumstances. Now, if you were to look back, I'm not sure about Indonesia, but in Malaysia, if you see soldiers being deployed in towns and cities, people may get panic. They're not used to seeing soldiers running around in the cities or towns. But they miss the moment the population, the public sees this, for them, their notion is that something is very wrong. All right. So this is something that we also need to address. That is the reason why we work closely together with other agencies as well, together with them. And it is, I believe, that the armed forces has taken a lot of trouble in being transparent. The defense minister, the senior defense minister, has taken a lot of trouble to engaging with the public to let them know that the armed forces is playing a supporting role and not the main role in this perspective. So I think this is some of the regulations that I think the main regulation is the what they call is the detaining the public, which is we have, but we work together with the police.
Thank you, sir. Some like Indonesia, we have the regulation that military support other agencies. Yeah. what we call the military operation other than war.
Other than war, correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And I believe you are aware that we call it Operation Benting in Malaysia. We call it Operation Benting, yeah.
Yeah. We support other agency.
Yes, correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Air Force Marshal Anton Santosa, for the question. And I think we still have no question from the chat box. Maybe if students here, sitting here, maybe have question, just raise your hand so I can give you time for asking. But sir, before we going there, I think I just want to know that the COVID-19, the pandemic, is giving us a really hard time. So I think if the pandemic still exists in several times, I don't know that can we still exist. I think because it makes us very, very hard to work, and because as my friend and the student said that we will lose most of our money just for taking care of this pandemic, but we have to live. So do you see that from your slide, I saw that you are going to show us that the China now is already free from the COVID-19. But and also I can see that China try to do a lot of things like entering your border or something like that. So do you think that maybe a similar question with the Air Force Marshal? Do you think is the COVID-19 is really comes from China, or I don't know, because I think something really suspicious for us. So is it real or not?
Okay, trying to put it in a very diplomatic manner, what they call, based on what we have read and what you have seen in most of the documentaries, what they call in the media, it is a fact that the COVID-19, the early stages of COVID-19 may have exploded. I put in such a word, exploded from Wuhan in China itself. Now, it is also a fact that some say it is from the it came out from the animal, a bat to be specific, and some literature also indicates that it was from the laboratory experiment, all right, based on bats and whatnot. Now, why they did this experiment, why they discovered this, that is something that most of us are not very clear about. But the fact is that the disease has become a pandemic. All right. Now, how far what they call China was able to contain the spread of this pandemic within their country is based on their expertise and the technology that they have. All right. Most probably, I would say that the measures taken by China could be very what they call effective. Okay, in one way. And you are also aware that Malaysia has also invited some of these China medicals or the expertise from China to assist Malaysia in addressing this pandemic in the early stages. So in that way, China has also been cooperative in the sense that they are willing to share their measures, the effective measures which they have undertaken in their country that shows that it was effective. Right. Whether this virus could be taken from the negative perspective, it's yet to be seen. Right. So far, I don't think we have come into any situation where we can see that the pandemic and conflict has played hand to hand. Pandemic goes in, then the terrorist attack or some kind of a negative conflicts has taken place. We've not seen that yet. But what we have seen is that areas where conflicts are still existing and still going on, with the presence of this pandemic, COVID-19, it has made the situation even worse, right? Basically for the people itself. Now, the warring parties in the particular conflict area may take the advantage of the pandemic situation because the government has to address the pandemic to ensure the people are in good health. So when the focus is on the population, and if there's less what they call focus emphasis given to security, then the warring parties or the negative perspective can take on. And that is where I felt that this presentation which I gave, we got to draw a line to have a balance between the impact on the economy, because it's important. At the same time, the government also has got to ensure that it's security perspective. So these two has got to be in balance so that we can sort of sustain ourselves during this pandemic area. Now, whether the pandemic can be eradicated once and for all, it's $1 million question. Because as I can see in Malaysia or in some countries that by reading papers and journals and whatnot, people who have been given the dose, the COVID-19 vaccine doses of various kinds, are not subjected to guarantee that they are free from COVID itself. Even in Malaysia, there are 1 or 2 cases. There are some cases, even in Singapore, there are some cases where after getting the second dose, the person is still tested positive for COVID. So where do we stand? So like one of your students mentioned earlier on, it is very, very difficult for the government, because the government cannot keep on buying vaccines after vaccines to give to the population. All right, we be losing a lot of money on that perspective. We focus on that, and what about the other economic perspective of the people? So that is a $1 million question, which I see, which I feel that most countries are feeling a dilemma in this perspective. So there is no what they call predictable answer to say that when it will end. But what I can say that we got to take all measures that we can, and it all plays with the people itself. If people comply to the procedures, comply to the procedures of the COVID-19, probably that will play a very much greater role in containing this spread, rather than depending on vaccine itself. That's my point of view, Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. Okay, I think we have some more questions, but before we going to Unhan students, I think I saw some student from UPNM. If you have any question, please write on the chat box, please. Then I'm waiting for your question. And now, while we're doing that, while we're waiting that, let's go to the EP students for economic, economic, okay. Okay, let's go to the next economics, defense economic, Darnis, yeah. Okay, Darnis, please your question. Darnis, you there?
Okay. Excuse me. For our my question is, many vaccines have been discovered, such as Oxford, AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech. That's what vaccine in use in Malaysia. What are the considerations? Will the vaccine have an effect on reducing COVID? Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you say the question slowly, please?
Say it again, please.
Many vaccines have been discovered, such as Oxford, AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech. That what vaccine in use in Malaysia? And what are the considerations? Will the vaccine have an effect reducing COVID effect? Thank you.
You're asking about what are the how has the vaccine has an effect on the people who taking in Malaysia? Right,
yes,
okay.
correct.
All right, okay, fine. Now, Malaysia, we have been taking this into a very in a very serious manner. The sense that we cannot be very choosy in the sense that what kind of vaccine that we require. Yes, we have got the AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and Moderna and whatnot. Even now, at the moment, we are using Sinovac, if I'm not mistaken, from China. All right. So it depends on what type of vaccine is available in the market at the moment. So based on that, the Malaysian government is trying their best to obtain that vaccine, which is available in the market, okay, at affordable price, to ensure that the population of Malaysia is given a dose. All right. If not mistaken, the planning according to the Ministry of Health is that by August this year, we want at least 80% of the population to be vaccinated. That is the target that which the Malaysian Health Ministry or the Malaysian government is taking on. All right. So in order to achieve that target, it depends on the availability of the vaccines. So far we have used sort of all types of vaccines that are available in the market. All right. So how has it affected the population? Yes, likewise in some other countries, there were many people who are very cautious about the type of vaccine that they want to take. Some say Pfizer has got a what they call more side effect as compared to Sinovac, or this particular vaccine is better than the other. All sorts of what they call notions were given to the population. Now the government has taken a lot of trouble to put this into perspective, to educate the population on the effectiveness of the particular vaccine or the various vaccine that is given, and the importance of taking the vaccine, and how it will affect not only the individual but also the Malaysian economy on the long term. So if you do not, if everybody do not want to, if most of the Malaysian population were to be vaccinated by any form of a vaccine, because all this vaccine, when the Malaysian government purchase from, they are already tested and they have got some, definitely it is of good use. It must be effective. No government will buy any vaccine without being tested or without being proven that it is effective, right? So this is the stand taken by the government to ensure that the population of Malaysia is vaccinated, so that on the long run, we are able to reduce the effect of this pandemic, and so that we can go on with our economic life. All right.
Okay, Darnis.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I'm still waiting for the student from UPNM for asking, but I don't see here. So maybe we just have to finish the first session because there is no question from Malaysia. Let's go to the next session for all of the questions that you already wrote here. Okay, let's go then to the EP, yeah? EP. Okay, Arhan, please, your question.
Okay, thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. Good morning, sir. My name is Muhammad Rizky Arhan from Economic Defense. My question is, in 2018, lots of Malaysians took the demonstration in Kuala Lumpur to reject the government's plan to adopt the UN Convention Against Racial Discrimination, called ICER. As we all know, the Malay, which is the majority in Malaysia, gets a number of privilege from the government, which is, for me personally, there's no problem about that, because clearly the fact that Malaysia is a royal country. But the fact after the demonstration, the issue of race resurfaced in Malaysia, and the situation is quite complicated because Malaysia is also filled with many races, and plus with the rise of anti-Chinese government because of the Chinese government policies nowadays. I think the problem is very similar in Indonesia right now, and my question is, how is the Malaysian government exactly views ICER, and how does the government see this as a potential horizontal conflict that must be watched? That's all, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay. There are two questions to this. One, you're asking about the rejection of the government's plan to adopt the UN Convention Against Racial Discrimination. Okay, I was just called by the ICER. The second question is regarding the culture values that are relating to Rukun Negara Malaysia. Okay, all right. Let me address the first question first. Okay, the first question that you call is to why we demonstrated to reject the government's plan to adopt the UN Convention Against Racial Discrimination. Now, I've been I'm not a Malay. I'm an Indian, in fact. All right, born in Malaysia. Okay, and I've been serving the government agency, which is the Malaysian Armed Forces, all right, throughout my life. And there are also many non-Malays in the Armed Forces as well, and also in other government agencies. So from the beginning itself, when we were trying to uphold the Rukun Negara, Malaysia, right? From those days, which implemented, every government, of course, they have got special privileges for the Malay, but they have not sort of excluded the other races as well. They have given the other races the what they call the due benefits and the what they call due benefits that was supposed to be given. All right. Now, yesterday, Professor Rohanas mentioned that what they call the Rukun Negara Malaysia is not being focused, what they call significantly at this current generation, which is true. All right. Now, if the Malaysian government has already providing the basic needs, the basic privileges to all the other races, all right, other races apart from other races, why do we need to adopt the UN Convention Against the Racial Discrimination? Is there a racial discrimination in Malaysia? That's the first question I'd like to ask. Is it seen? Right, because you must understand that out of the about so-called 32 million people in Malaysia, 3/4 are Malays. All right, so of course you will see more Malays working in the organization because the population is small. The rest, the Indians are only about 0.5% of the population. How many do you expect to work in agency? That's a number one, right? So in that perspective, my opinion is that I don't see any discrimination actually happening. Even you go to universities, you'll find there is what they call a range of races in the universities. It's not just confined to one particular race. No, right? And we are also slowly moving, okay, towards calling ourselves as Malaysian. It's no more but we are recognized by individual race. We are going to be recognized by Malaysian as a citizen of Malaysia. So I believe that's the reason why it wasn't necessary for us to adopt the discrimination, what they call convention. I believe it wasn't necessary for us to be involved in that at all. That's my answer to you for the first question. Now the second question, what they call, we talk about the 5 Rukun Negara, the 5 rules which consist of loyalty to the king and country, believe in God, adhering to the rule of law, okay, good behavior and morality, and adhering to the constitution law. These are the 5 so-called pillars of Rukun Negara that has been emphasized, what they call, from the beginning itself, since our independence. All right, as we move along, times have changed, things have changed. Perhaps some of these are still being practiced, all right, maybe in a very not in open manner. All right, perhaps we have crossed that line into looking into the rest of us as in one in one world perspective. All right, so we are still upholding the cultural, although there are different culture in Malaysia as much as in Indonesia, but I believe that everyone respects, okay, the culture and the customs, all right, as long as it does not defy, okay, or does not defy the government of the day. All right. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Arhan, and thank you, Dr. Nixon. So we still have a lot of questions. Is it okay for you?
Yeah,
or
I'm
you
okay.
need some? Okay.
No, I'm good to go.
Thank
We
you
are
very much.
military personnel. We got endurance.
Thank you. Okay, now let's go to the defense management city. Your question, please.
Excuse me, moderator. Thank you for the chance. Good morning, Mr. Major General DATO Dr. ENDRY Nixon. My name is Siti Kairina Rahayu. I'm from Defense Management Study Program. In Indonesia, the problem that arises when synergizing in overcoming problem arising from the pandemic is the problem of high sectoral ego. We consider that in terms of handling epidemic that our nation in nature control should be in the hand of the center, then synergies by the regional government. My question is, does this also happen in government and non-government agencies in Malaysia? If so, we are the measure to address this. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, Karina. All right, the question is asking whether, yes, of course, when the synergies, when you have got to collaborate with many agencies, there are a lot of issues that arise, right? That's arise in how are we able to work with one another. Now, as I said earlier on, we do have a National Security Council, okay, which is chaired by the Prime Minister himself and all the other respective agencies, the head of respective agencies. The objective is to handle any crisis, okay, such as the COVID-19 pandemic at the moment, okay, for the government. All right. Now, when we are working with different agencies, the best option that we can take is, number one, we have got to look into what are the assets that's available in each agency. All right. So we are able to optimize the assets that we require from each agency so that we will not deplete one particular agency. For example, if you take all the assets from the Malaysian Armed Forces to be utilized for this pandemic period, okay, what will happen to Malaysian Armed Forces? If a threat occurs, can they be deployed for operational duties without these assets? So therefore, what they call collaboration and the optimization of assets from each agency plays a role. All right, so every agency has got to sacrifice a certain number of assets, certain number of staffs, okay, in addressing and working together in this perspective. All right, okay, that's one part of it. Now, if I were to focus on the Malaysian Armed Forces and what are the challenges that we face, okay, in collaborating with other agencies, there could be at least about 3 to 4 challenges, right? The first challenges could be, all right, what is the role of the Malaysian Armed Forces? If this primary role is to ensure the defense of the country, how is it going to affect its role, although it's supporting a role in the health crisis, what they call perspective? All right. Now, this depends on the capability, the healthcare capability which the Armed Forces has. How much is it able to provide the healthcare capability? All right, that's the first question we need to ask ourselves. Next one could be whether in the collaboration perspective of the various agencies, is there sufficient space for the military operation to go in, be part of the public health crisis? If they also can go in, how much should they contribute? Because the medical services, we have got the police force, we have got the other agencies working together, all the other NGOs and whatnot. How much can we provide is something that we have got to look into. That's a challenge. We cannot deploy all the personnel into supporting a role, because we also have our routine operational duties to conduct. All right. So there is only a certain percentage that we can provide assistance. Like in Singapore, as I said, mentioned earlier on, they do not engage themselves 100% in this COVID-19 role. All right. They only, even then, only the reservists are deployed to assist them in packing up the essentials for the COVID-19. You don't see Singapore, what we call armed forces personnel in the working together, police doing road control, whatnot. They don't see that. They can afford to. It's a small country. Like in Malaysia, we may need to provide assistance because we have got to support the other agencies so that they will not be depleted. That's the second thing that the question we got to ask ourselves. Now, the third thing, as I said earlier on, the deployment of the what they call the armed forces in the towns and cities is also a question, because the public in Malaysia are not used to see that happening. So we need to be very transparent in utilizing. We got to utilize the Malaysian armed forces in a very discreet manner, the sense that we are working together with other parties in support. So that is another question we need to challenge that we face. All right. Okay. The other one is that, yes, of course, the Malaysian armed forces, we have got the technical capacity, and also we have the expertise, but we do not have the quantity. We don't have the quantity for them to deploy nationwide. That's another challenge that we face. Last but not least, it is very unclear even how many, although the armed forces is assisting the civil hospitals in building up, in coming up with field hospitals, but how many hospitals that we can provide? Especially, can we handle the outbreak of this infectious disease outbreak? Can we handle this? So these are some of the 5 challenges which I can foresee that the Malaysian Armed Forces is facing in collaborating with other agencies. I believe similar challenges are also being faced by other agencies as well. But the National Security Council is the organization whereby they have got to view all these issues, all right, and come up with the amicable solution and how to address the COVID-19, so that each organization is given a right proportion of tasks to be conducted, and so that they can collaborate with one another. Is that okay, Karina? Siti Karina?
Yes,
Siti?
thank you, Chef.
Okay, that
most
was
welcome.
an excellent answer. Okay, now we still have more questions. So I hope you
No
still
problem.
have. Thank you very much.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
we go to Ahmad from Energy Security. Ahmad, your time.
Moderator, you can hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, sir. I'm Ahmad Munawir Siregar from Energy Security. I'm so interested this presentation, and I'm enjoying. I want to ask about how does the Malaysian military to respond about this situation of pandemic? As we know, before in Malaysia have a lockdown regulation, and then how the Malaysian military provide knowledge or information to civilians about the threats like pandemic situation and South China Sea and others. Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right. Now, quite a good question you asked that is very vital to the presentations given here. All right. The first question you're asking is about how the Malaysian military provide knowledge and information to civilians about the threat. All right. I don't think the Malaysian Armed Forces is the tool to provide information to the public itself, because they have their own means, okay, on how to provide information. You'll find that the Ministry of Defense is the ministry which is responsible, okay, which is headed by our senior minister, defense minister. All right, he will go in. He and the civil servants of the Ministry of Defense will be responsible to provide the right information. All right, the Malaysian Armed Forces are just what they call, as you said, a political organization, like what Prof. Ruhana said yesterday, a political, a non-political party assisting the government of the day. So providing information regarding threat to the country, it is not a job of the Malaysian Armed Forces, but it's the job of the Ministry of Defense itself and the government. All right. Your next question is what you're asking about the pandemic condition in Malaysia, or is it affecting to the South China Sea?
Yes, sir. And how to provide to knowledge or information to civilians about the threats.
Okay, so this is how I said, it is not the job of the Malaysian Armed Forces to provide information on the threat, but it's the job of the Ministry of Defense to do so. Now, how has the pandemic also has affected the South China Sea? Like, right, I have mentioned to you, lately there was intrusion of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels into the Malaysian waters. Now, this is not the first time. From 2016 up to 2020, there have been this encroachment to a total number of, not mistaken, 89 times. This has happened. All right, even it is the intrusion into the airspace is also not the first time they're doing it. It has happened before. And the Malaysian stand on this situation is that, yes, government does not recognize or does not are not pleased with what has happened. All right, as you are aware, that Malaysian government has called the Chinese diplomat in Malaysia to give an explanation, and also it was also given explanation by the Chinese factor itself. Now, we can only go to a certain level. How would you want to engage China in such circumstances? Now, you and I know that you cannot go to full-time war against China. We don't have the capabilities. So what can the government do? We have to do it from a different perspective. All right. In the economics, I think it is called as a hedging factor. How are you going to hedge with China in such situations? Right? You can't completely fight with them in total. At the same time, we cannot say it's okay and keep quiet. If not, they will take advantage. So you got to have a hedging position. What hedging position do you have? You got to engage them with economic perspective and defense diplomacy perspective. All right, so that at least in certain way, we're able to balance the thing off so that it not happen more rapidly in the future. At the same time, we're also telling China, right? We do not concur to what you're doing. We also have our stand it is. So China also will know that the Malaysia is a bit serious, right? At the same time, we are able to, but at the same time, we are also working together with them. Now, economically, you must also understand that the export to China, all right, it's about 12.7% of exports goes to China. All right. So if you engage with them in a very negative way, the economy also has a stake. So the government has got to play a very diplomatic role in this situation. All right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we still have some question from economic, yeah? Defense economy, Zaki, please your question.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Zaki Mikhail and I'm student of Defense Economic Program. In this opportunity, I should like to ask you about the threat of terrorism, sir. As I know, the threat of terrorism in Indonesia is still below the crisis level. And involvement of TNI, or we call Tentara Nasional Indonesia, is only possible if the police ask for help. So the involvement of the military is still under control of police operation. And my question, how do Angkatan Tentara Malaysia or Malaysian military and Malaysian police make a deal with threat of terrorism?
Okay.
And the second one is, as we know, that the pandemic has more impact on economic sector like supply chain, production, sales, and other that you have explained us before. And I want to know, how did Malaysia respond to the economic crisis during pandemic COVID-19? And maybe is there the effort that the military take for to recovery the economy in Malaysia? Thanks, sir. Just
okay, thank you so much. Okay. To address the first question is how the Malaysian military or the Malaysian armed forces and the Malaysian police work together in the threat of terrorism. All right. Okay. Now, as if you were to recall what Professor Wana said yesterday, terrorism is something which is very internal, domestic, and those are dealt by the Home Ministry, right? You can recall. Okay. So therefore, in terms of treating terrorism, the Home Ministry plays a larger role in handling these such situations within the country because it's a domestic affair. All right. This does not mean that the Malaysian armed forces are not involved in it as well. All right. As much as the Malaysian police has got its intelligence department, so do we in the military. We have got our own intelligence as well. All right. But the fact that is that the both intelligence agencies work together in sharing information, in sharing intelligence, all right, from their various resources, all right, and they work together. But you see, the forefront action is always taken by the police because it is the internal factor. Although the Malaysian armed forces are working together with the police, they will not be on the forefront. They'll be always in the supporting role because it's a domestic affair which belongs to the Home Ministry. So the police will take action physically. But the cooperation behind that scene comes from all other agencies as well. That's my answer for your first question. All right. Your second question is that how does the military assist in the economic in Malaysia? The answer is, if you're talking about in producing income, no. Malaysian armed forces got no jurisdiction in generating income for the Malaysian government. But our major role is to ensure that no threats affects the economy of the country. And how are we doing it? All right, like any other country, like even in your country, the Malaysian armed forces, the military supports the government in trying to reduce or eradicate the pandemic. Only in that way, if they can go and we do that by enforcing many things, assisting the police as well. We do roadblocks, we do ensuring lockdowns, all right. We provide the logistics service or logistic transport services if they require, all right, in assisting the medical staffs in the various agencies, okay, based on what our medical staff can provide. So these are some of the ways where we can support the government in handling the economy. Now, what actions has the Malaysian government has taken in addressing this? We have also come out, Malaysian government has also come out with various incentives. We've got package 1, package 2, package 3, package 4, whatnot, all right, which I can't go in detail at the moment, in providing incentives in terms of monetary incentives, in terms of tax reduction incentives for the people, so that their livelihood can be sustained with the hope that the pandemic can be eradicated as soon as possible. So these are some of the programs undertaken by the Malaysian government, and these are some of the measures taken by the Malaysian Armed Forces to assist the government, okay, towards helping in the economic perspective. All right, Zaki?
Okay, I got it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, most welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, question from Lena. Lena from Energy Security. Lena, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, ma'am. Hello, sir. Excuse me,
Yep.
I'm Lena Luciana from Energy Security Program. Let me ask you, first, seeing the sophistication of the technology applied by the Malaysian military, is it possible if augmented reality is implemented for the prevention and handling of COVID-19? We know that COVID-19 patient needs strong immunity, which is can be created by improving mood, such as virtual tours, using augmented reality that are tailored to their needs. For example, for students, it is filled with education, and for adults, it is filled with an introduction to state defense and security. And second, we know that Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia adhere to the Green Water Navy. Is there any discourse to increase the level to Green Water Navy?
Okay, I'm not quite clear of your first question. What exactly you like to know? The first question.
Is it possible if augmented reality is implemented for the prevention and handling of COVID-19?
Okay, are you referring to the technology that
Yes.
is available in the Malaysian Armed Forces that can assist
Yes.
the government?
Yes,
All right, okay,
we get
fine.
it.
Okay, let me try to answer the first question first. All right, as I said earlier on, the Malaysian Armed Forces do have the expertise and the technology. All right, because we are dealing with conflicts and war. Therefore, you must have the best equipments, the best assets, okay, in terms of a medical point of view. You have seen in the video clip earlier on that some of the equipment that we have, okay, in order to help out in the current pandemic era. All right, so the staffs with the technical and expertise knowledge are also being deployed to assist the health ministry, all right, in addressing this particular issue. But how much can we assist it's also limited, right? Because we're not able to, as I said, you cannot be deployed nationwide. We only got a number of expertise in our hand, all right? So we can only augment with the knowledge and experience that we have, all right, in assisting the health ministry in dealing with these issues. And even with the equipment, we can only provide them with the limited facilities from what we have, because you cannot move the large facilities from one point. It is fixed. What are mobile, okay, can be moved. We provide those facilities to the Ministry of Health to assist them. So this is one way how we augment our technological perspective, okay, from the military force to the what they call to the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Health as well. Is that okay for the first question? We'll go to the second one.
Okay,
Is
sir.
it
That's
answered?
great.
Okay, now I'm
Answer
talking
for the
about.
first. Let's go
Okay,
to
now
the next.
the next question you're asking whether the Green Water Navy, yeah.
Yes, Green Water Navy and upgrade to Blue Water Navy.
Yeah.
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Question now is what is your understanding on the Green Water Navy? When you say green water, what do you mean?
What do you mean, Lena? Green water.
Green Water Navy. I define that what is that? A country that keep in peaceful.
Okay. All right. Now, the definition may not be accurate in the sense that when you talk about green water, which the Malaysian Navy is now trying to gauge into that what they call into that area. When you say green water navy, we are referring to as the what they call is unpolluted environment. Okay, it's unpolluted environment because at the present moment we use diesel, we use petrol, we use what? Okay, all those things are being used by the navy itself in terms of when they go for operation, right? And all these waste are all these waste are thrown into the sea. All right, and directly or indirectly, it does pollute the sea. All right. Okay. So, what is green water? What we are doing now is when we are looking into the Malaysian Navy is also transforming. Okay, you've heard of the transformation from 15 to 5. They are moving into a more complex and a more formidable navy. Okay, and also and they are also including the green water perspective part of it, so that they are also ensuring that the environment is safe. There's no pollution in air, in water, and in land as well. So that is what you mean by green water. I think this has been perhaps you are right in the sense that it has been adopted by the Singapore Navy. Okay, the Malaysian Navy, I know we are already in the process of doing it. How about Indonesian Navy? Are you going into that as well?
Yeah. And sir, and I agree and support that because if we concern to environment too, we also keep in Paris Agreement too.
Participate in that as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, sir. That's
okay.
enough.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Lena, for the question. I think I have one student from Malaysia. So, Shauki Zurhan, I think it is your time now for asking. Shauki Zurhan.
Okay, hello, good morning.
Okay, okay.
Okay, good morning, sir. I am Cadet Shauki Zurhan from study student, National Defense University Malaysia. Okay, as we know, chemical weapon is banned in warfare, which is using bioterrorism attack. But biological weapon is said to be in development. How does the military prepare for the attack if the enemy is use biological weapon? And we know that COVID-19 gives a weakness to the armed forces and it will still expose to the possibility of being attacked from other country, sir.
Okay, it's okay. As an app question you asked at this point of time, I believe I've touched that in my presentation. But however, you know, since you are from Malaysia, we do have the biological assets, which is basically held in what they call down south in Kluang. That's the asset that we have down there. All right. How much is the Malaysian Armed Forces prepared for biological warfare? It is still questionable. We are limited in that perspective, and that is the reality. All right. Okay. Now, nevertheless, the Malaysian Armed Forces has also got his plans. It also has got his plans on how to address such attacks. All right. Who will be deployed in the front line? Okay. How are they going to address the issue before the rest of us go in? All right. So if you find that if the biological warfare or using chemical warfare is being conducted in any country, okay, while the pandemic is going on, all right, what do you think will happen to the particular country, the state? The country is already addressing pandemic state, all right? If a chemical warfare, biological warfare is being imposed into that particular state, what will happen to the country? The country will be in a chaos situation, right? It will be in a very chaos situation, all right? Which is it going to handle? Is it going to handle the biochemical warfare or the pandemic? All right, that is why I was saying earlier on, we need to be ready to face any eventualities. All right, following the procedures that we have got, these are the number of things that we can do as far as a biological warfare attack. We can do so much. At the same time, some of the agencies has also got to address the pandemic COVID-19 issue, which is ongoing. So that is where I said you got to have a balance between the military has got to balance itself between the supporting role towards COVID-19 pandemic, and also got to pay also give emphasis on how is it going to address if any sudden attacks comes into Malaysia. That's a challenge, all right? But how detailed, I'm not in the position to tell, because what they call strategic Department of Malaysian Armed Forces has got their own plan, right? Perhaps maybe Handro will come in. The total, what they call the whole of government will be implemented to addressing these issues. Okay, Shauki?
You have second question? Shauki, you have second question. Is that right?
Do you have any question?
No, man. I only have one question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Shauki, now let's go to Indonesia. Riri, your question, please. Riri? Riri, you there?
Excuse me?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Riri Andani from Defense Management Study Program. As the number of cases continue to increase global, especially in Malaysia, which reached 9,000 cases in one day, the number of patients in critical condition is rapidly exceeding the available facilities. This requires us to make difficult choice. What is the best way for Malaysia to allocate secure and limited medical resources, such as medicine, access to intensive care, personal protective equipment, medical staff, and research fund? Thank you, sir.
All right, okay. You're right in the sense that the cases in Malaysia are slowly increasing from time to time, especially after the Hari Raya Idul Fitri. There were a number of clusters that has begun with and has increased. You're right in the sense that it may reach up to 9,000 cases in one day. All right, now, the cases are increasing. The vaccines are not as much as we can obtain. How are we going to optimize the vaccine, okay, for the people? What are the challenges that we face? Okay, number one, of course, the word priority will come in. Who are we going to give priority to? Right? The government has taken action that they are providing a frontliners priority. And who are the frontliners? Medical staff, the police personnel, the armed forces personnel, or any other agencies personnel who are on the front line dealing with that pandemic. So those are the priority given to vaccines are given to priority 1 people. All right. The next challenge the government is facing, of course, is that everybody wants to be vaccinated. The question is now, if I were to ask you a question, who would you give the vaccination to? Is it to let's say to a mother who is 80 years old, a mother who is 80 years old, a grandmother who is 80 years old, do not go out from the house very often, or to a 35-year-old lady who is working in the essential services sector? Who would you give? Which will be your priority? An 80-year-old grandmother who sits in the house, doesn't go much, she's taking care of the house, or a 35-year-old lady who was working in the essential service sector.
Really?
Riri, what do you think?
What do you think, Riri? The lady or the old
Or the
lady or
grandmother?
the young one?
The young one. Who will you give?
Riri, you got it?
Okay, I'm not sure whether she got what I said. Okay, Riri. Hello, Riri. Can you hear me?
Riri?
She muted herself, so she can't hear. Okay.
Maybe there's some problem with this. I think,
system.
yeah,
Okay, now
yes.
I'll just go on. Okay, if all of you are down there, okay, if you say that the 80-year-old lady should be given priority for the vaccine, you are not wrong, because they say that the vaccination should be given to people who are of senior. But at the same time, who is actually generating for the economy is the 35-year-old lady working in the essential sector. If the 80-year-old grandmother is sitting in the house, not going out very often, the chances of being affected by COVID-19 is less as compared to the younger lady who is working in the essential service sector, right? Who has got to go to work every day. All right, that is also important. So these are the challenges which the government is facing at the moment, right? Because of if it is my mother, all right, and if they ask me, vaccine should be given to another person, the younger lady, will I not argue and say, hey, no, my mother is more important than this lady? Obviously, that will be the case. All right. At the same time, you've got to also see the government's point of view. If the younger ones are affected and cannot work, how will it assist the economy of the country? So these are challenges which the government is facing right now. And right now, if you would look at it, more and more people in Malaysia want to get vaccinated. That's another issue as well. If you say 80% of the population to be vaccinated by August, if you say there's another 20% who cannot be vaccinated, if that 20% also wants to be vaccinated, so there's going to be another challenge as well. So the government has got to find and able to explain to the population, all right, in a very calm manner, all right, who is given priority and who is not, and why is that. If the people can understand that part, I think it'll be more calm in that manner. So those are the challenges which the current government is facing in terms of vaccination. That's why you find that our Minister of Health, Kerry, is having a tough time in answering questions. Was that okay with you, Riri?
Riri? Okay.
All right. Okay. She's totally lost now.
Yes, problem. Okay. Still there, but still have problem with the
okay.
mic maybe. Okay, now let's go to the Malaysia. We have Ezar from NDU Malaysia. Ezar, your time now.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Good morning, Dato'.
Okay.
So my question is, we know that the Chinese government has claimed the 9-9 in the Southeast Asia that include the most part of the Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and others. So by that, how do the government of nations, even the Indonesian, dealing with it? And is it can we call merosakkan plan of the government to curb the what we call pandemic right now? Because we know the Malaysian government is also has the potential to curb the COVID-19 pandemic, but with the issues that arise by the Chinese government, it will come more cases to arise. So what do you think, Dato'?
Are you referring to the
9-9?
Okay. Are you referring to situations such as the economic support of China, or are you referring to the situation in South China Sea?
Situation in South China Sea.
Okay, the situation in South China Sea. Okay, by now we know that this South China Sea, the Chinese has already expanded their claim over the territory through the 9 dotted lines. All right, and they're claiming that that whole area belongs to China itself. Of course, there are other countries such as Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, all also got a hand in it in that particular South China Sea area. Why is the South China Sea so important? Okay, logic tells you that, of course, as you have said, it has got petroleum, gas resources, and whatnot. Now, this goes back to the energy security, right? It goes to the question of energy security. Now, when you say energy security, it involves what? It involves petrol, it involves gas, okay? It involves electricity, and it involves water. These are the four main things as far as energy security is concerned. Now, all those things are all part and parcel of South China Sea. All right. Now, how is Malaysia going to deal with what they call with China in this perspective? All right. As I said earlier on, we will not be able to fight them heads on. All right. But we have got to deal with them in a very diplomatic manner and also in a very economical manner. Most countries within the Asian region, though they are smaller than China, okay, they have taken a position called middle position in terms of economic perspective. Middle position. Earlier on, I said hedging. Okay, countries like Vietnam, okay, Vietnam have taken that the middle position in the sense that they want to balance the thing off. When I say middle position, in the sense that most of the countries here have got economic relationship with China itself. All right. Okay, if you were to see Malaysia, if you talk about China and the US, all right, how much of exports go to China, how much exports goes to US? It's between 12.5% and 12.7%. Okay, that's the amount of export that we do between the two countries. All right. Now, we have got to also have a very good diplomatic relationship with China because of the economic relationship that we have. At the same time, we cannot also, as I said earlier on, cannot let go our territory. So what the Malaysian Armed Forces has got to do is that they got to make sure that their presence is felt in those islands that is claimed by Malaysia. And each country is doing the same thing. At the same time, it's got to engage with China in a very diplomatic manner. All right. I think this manner has been advocated by our Tun Mahathir before. So that is something that we are still engaging them with. So in that way, dealing with the pandemic is one thing, is internal perspective. But remember, as I also mentioned earlier on in the with answering one of the questions, we are also obtaining Chinese assistance because they have got measures they have also come down to Malaysia to what they call to sort of show us the way how measures that can take against measures that can be effective on COVID-19. And we are also doing that as well. So there is a cooperation. All right. They are what they call the claim of South China Sea is one thing. As long as you don't get into war or conflicts, right? As long as they do not override, cross the boundary to our territory and take our stake, as long as that does not happen, I think you are quite safe. So the Malaysia has got to balance between, as I said, security readiness, to understand the security development, complete development, and also military preparedness or readiness. Okay, it's a good questions already, nah?
Thank you, Dato.
Yeah, thank you, Rudin. Okay, now I think we have final question from Zedra. Then after that, we will finish this discussion. Then we go to the next session for conclusion. Okay, Zedra, your question, please.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity given, moderator. Good morning, Sid. Beforehand, permit introduce yourself. My name is Jedra Sudirman. I'm from Defense Management Study Program. I want to ask about Malaysian defense resources. My question is, whether ethnic uniform in Malaysia causing obstacle in human resources in supporting state defense? And how also when faced with the COVID-19 pandemic? Please explain. Thank you, Shir.
Okay, a question. When you say ethnic uniform, are you talking about ethnic uniformity in addressing the state defense and the COVID-19 pandemic? Are you referring to that?
Jedra?
Yes.
Uniformity or the ethnic uniformity, right? Okay, all right. Now, when you talk about ethnic uniformity, I believe that all races in Malaysia, which we are slowly diverting away from it, are working together in the sense that as an agency, not as an individual. Say, we can find all races are involved in Ministry of Health, all races are involved in what you call in the police, all races are involved in the Malaysian Armed Forces, all races are involved in the economic sector of the country as well. It is not just one particular race which is dealing with. So all of us are working together. Doesn't matter whether you are a Chinese, Indian, or Malay, or what color your skin is. The idea is now how are we able to work together, right? Together to stabilize the current economy status, because what is being caused by the pandemic. Right? If you were to go to the street at the moment, I'm sure it is similar in the Indonesia as well. Who are the people who is actually suffering in this pandemic? It is not those guys who are earning a steady income. It is those guys who are getting daily income, who are doing trading on a daily basis. If they are not allowed to go to the street to do their business, how are they going to survive? So why I'm telling you this is the sense that the trade are not only based on one race. It's all races are involved in that. So I believe that what they call I don't think there's an issue on ethnic perspective here in Malaysia, but all are working together. Even recently, all right, the government has taken special efforts, all right, to ensure the what they call the Orang Asli people, okay, situated in Gombak and other areas in Malaysia as well, are also vaccinated. They are not left off. They are also not left behind. Right now, the government wants to ensure that no one is left behind, vaccinated. Right, so they are going for. They want to ensure that the whole population of Malaysia will be vaccinated. Now, how does it support the state defense? Right, again, I think we're all working together, regardless to what race, religion, or skin color you are. We are working in one agency, one organization towards one goal, which is to how to eradicate this pandemic COVID-19. I think that explains the uniformity that we have. We are all working together. Okay, Jedra?
Jedra?
Okay, thank you, Chef.
Thank you so much. Sorry about. Do you mind lengthen the time, because we have a bit important question from the Amin Shafiq from NDU Malaysia. It's asking about how does the pandemic really affected military operation or training around the globe. So that's the question from Amin Shafiq.
Okay, all right. Okay, fine. Now, how does the Malaysian Armed Forces taking what they call training wise here? Okay. First of all, let me explain that the involvement of the Malaysian Armed Forces in this pandemic to Shafiq is a supporting role. All right. Now, one of the role that we have being armed forces is to support the civil authorities in the public order. Now, over the years, how much have we been involved in public order? Armed forces, practically zero, except for the May 19 incident in 1969. Apart from that, none. So when the opportunity came for Malaysian Armed Forces to be able to exercise its role with the public, okay, the pandemic came in. So we took the opportunity to exercise this part of our role, okay, in collaboration with other agencies in addressing this public order. All right. Again, how do we go about doing our duties during this pandemic? Malaysian Armed Forces, as I believe, will have at least 4 areas where you got to look into. First important thing is the operation perspective, operation duties. The second important thing is how to do the supporting role in COVID pandemic. The third important thing is how are they going to conduct training. The fourth important thing is that how are they going to do admin? They also need trust. So they got to balance themselves in a cycle within these 4 perspectives. It could be on a 2 months basis. It could be 2 months, 4 months, 2 months, 4 months basis, as long as it comes to 12 or more than that. So this is how the Malaysian Armed Forces are rotating in the terms of in this current situation to ensure that they are in the peak performance situation and at the same time are fully rested. Now the next thing is, although the Malaysian the soldiers are being deployed in the supporting role, the Malaysian Armed Forces have also taken measures how to ensure that the soldiers are kept safe. One, all right, the preventive measures such as to make sure they're given, if they are frontliners, they are vaccinated. Number two, if they go for any particular duty, they are quarantined after coming back for the particular duty. Number three, what they call to ensure their physical fitness is fit at all time, which they can do at the individual basis. Number four, how are they going to do individual training? That can be conducted during the training period of the month, okay, through classroom means or having a limited number of the platoon level or even a section level, because you have space to put them together and you can still train individually. All right, collectively, we can use simulators, computers, laptop, desktops, okay, bringing scenarios, as long as you get your mind working and you keep a cognitive level at the peak while keeping a fitness at the psychomotor level, fitness at this peak as well. So in this way, you are able to sustain yourself for military readiness at all times. Is that okay?
Shafiq,
thank you, sir, for answering my question.
Okay, thank you. Most welcome.
Sorry, I didn't give you time because the time is critical. So thank you very much for your time, for your energy, for answering the lots of questions from us here. Thank you very much. It was very impressive and very outstanding discussion from you. And ladies and gentlemen, now we come up to the end of the meeting by giving a conclusion. But actually, this discussion is already expand lots. But I just want to give you as a basic conclusion. Is about the COVID-19 found in the first time in China is a threat which compel political response by the government under the time pressure and uncertainty, as you said. And COVID-19 has a big impact to the global security, including economic, energy, nuclear security, as well human rights. Destroy the economic stability, human security, peace, and create states conflict. COVID-19 compels military to use their force for participating in healthcare support, while other countries have to struggle with the situation and also changing their behavior by change the training and exercise system in new normal environment. The PLA is successful in maneuvering to other countries' border. So that's my conclusion. So finally, we are at the final of the meeting. I would like to send a big gratitude to the speaker, Major General retired DATO Dr. ENDRY NIXON, for the wonderful presentation and material. I really hope that we are able to meet again next time in better time and better condition. And also, thank you very much for participants for joining today's discussion. I do believe this discussion giving all of us deeper insight for us about the implication of COVID-19 to global security and military readiness. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Santi, Santi Om, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Have a nice day. I will take over the forum to the MC. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the moderator who guided the session well. Let us give a big round of applause to the moderator. To the moderator, you may be seated. To express our appreciation upon the speaker and moderator, the Defense Management Faculty is going to award certificate to the speaker and moderator. The Dean of Defense Management Faculty will award the certificate. 1. Major General DATO Dr. ENDRY NIXON. 2. Captain Navy Retired Dr. DRE Kristen Sri Marnani, MAP.
Yeah, again, thank you to the speaker, Major General DATO Dr. ENDRY NIXON, for your excellent presentation and also question and answer sessions. And also thank you to Colonel Navy Christine for moderating the session. As an expression of our gratitude on behalf of the Indonesia Defense University, we would like to award the certificate to the speaker and moderator. The first certificate is awarded to the speaker, Major General Retired DATO Dr. ENDRY NIXON. Please accept our certificate and give applause to the Major General ENDRY NIXON.
Thank you so much.
Second is certificate is awarded to the moderator, Captain Navy Retired Christine. Thank you for moderating decisions. And please accept our certificate and give applause to Colonel Navy Christine.
Thank you very much.
Again, thank you very much for the speaker, moderator, and all participants, students from Indonesia Defense University and also National Defense University of Malaysia. And thank you for the decisions. Good afternoon and see you next session. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Christine, for moderating the session very well. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. I appreciate it, really. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let's all together take a picture. Take the right hand of the chest and say Salam Bela Negara. Follow me, Salam Bela Negara.
Salam Bela.
Salam Bela Negara.
Once more, Salam Bela Negara.
Salam
Bela Negara.
Thank you. Once again, we would like to convey our appreciation to the speaker that has shared his thought and experience to all of us. May all the knowledge we have gained be useful for our nation. Distinguished participants, all the agenda of this program session 1 today with topic Human Resource Management for Defense Concept. Thank you for the time and attention given during the session. Thank you for our participants who have been actively participant during the session. On behalf of the organizer, we would like to apologize for our mistakes during the session. We want to remind our participants that session 2 will begin at 1:30 o'clock. We do hope our participants to join 10 minutes before the session. We would also like to remind all of us to always implementation health protocol by washing our hands, wearing our mask, and minding our distance. Let us closing this session by saying Hamdalah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin.
Okay.
Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, General
Thank
Dato.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Bu Christine.
Ya, siap. Terima kasih, Pak. Sama-sama.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Christine. I enjoyed having you as moderator.
Okay, regard from Beckett House, sir.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right. I think that's the same program that we attended. So, but I think it was more of a tour than the classes itself.
Yeah. It's very nice experience. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
The recording has stopped.